it's Mrs. Nice again. Okay, so finishing up section 27.2, now we have this last part about Renaissance art. So here's our example painting. It says, this example of Renaissance art is titled The School of Athens. It was painted by the artist Raphael around 1510. Ancient Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle are shown here, surrounded by some of the Renaissance artists they later inspired. So just a reminder, Renaissance artists were really inspired by classical times, so they're inspired by ancient Greece and Rome. So even though this painting was made during Renaissance times, it shows people, or at least some people, from classical times and classical looking artwork as well. Renaissance art. The Renaissance lasted from the 1300s to the early 1600s. Artists created sculptures, murals, drawings, and paintings. The aim of much Renaissance art was to show the importance of people and nature, not just religious ideas. Artists began using new techniques. Here are additional characteristics of Renaissance art. So right here we have our goal. It's to show the importance of people and nature and religious ideas. So remember, medieval art was just about showing religious ideas. They still showed religious ideas in Renaissance art, but not all of the art was about religion. You also had art that showed nature or showed the importance of people. It showed everyday people. It showed people who aren't necessarily involved with the Catholic Church. So here are characteristics of Renaissance art. Artists showed religious and non-religious scenes. So in this one, this would be a non-religious scene as it is showing ancient Greek philosophers, Plato and Aristotle. Art reflected a great interest in nature. This painting, you don't see that so much in this painting, but other paintings you do see more nature and things in the background. Figures looked lifelike and three-dimensional, reflecting an increasing knowledge of anatomy or of the human body. So if we look at this example one, we can definitely see that. The figures do look three-dimensional. They look very realistic the way that they're painted. And we could tell that they understand how to paint realistic-looking figures. Figures were shown in action. We definitely see that in this one. It looks like these guys are walking. You have clusters of people reading or talking or turning around or grouping up in some way. So you could definitely see that characteristic in this piece of artwork. Next, figures were either nude or clothed. So similar to classical style of art, they are either nude or they have clothes. Now in this painting, because this is showing classical era people, we could see them wearing togas because they were painting their vision of classical times. However, in other Renaissance paintings that more depict Renaissance time, you would see clothing that's more common of the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. Next, scenes showed real people doing everyday tasks. Again, you could see that in this one. You have someone reading here. Next, faces expressed what people were feeling. If you look at this one, if you're able to zoom in, you could see that unlike the other pieces of artwork from classical or medieval times, people have facial expressions and they show feeling. Colors were shown responding to light. So in this, what it means is that some areas might appear darker or shadowed. Some areas appear lighter. If there's light coming in from a window, that is shown in the painting. It's not just like all one light level. You could see different varying levels of light in the paintings. Next, paintings were often symmetrical or balanced, with the right and left sides having identical elements. So this is big in Renaissance art. What this means when painting or artwork is symmetrical, if you drew a line down the middle, the two halves are very similar. So if we draw our line down the middle, yes, we completely see that. We see there's a guy standing in the middle on this side. There's a guy standing right here on this side. You have groups around them. You have a group in the front on this side. You have a group in the front on this side. You have a statue in the background on this side. You have a statue in the background on this side. You have equal parts of the arch on both sides. So again, symmetry is just if you drew a line down the middle. It's not saying they're exactly the same necessarily, but it is saying that it's similar groupings, and we definitely see that one in this painting. Next, full backgrounds showed perspective adding depth. So again, here's perspective. You could see figures in the front appear bigger. As things go towards the back, it appears smaller. And so this painting is using perspective. It makes it more realistic. You also have a full background. It's not just a solid color like earlier art styles. You see in the background of this, the building and, the sky. In other Renaissance paintings, you might see the outdoors or something like that. All right. If you compare these three styles, you can see that Renaissance artists were inspired more by classical art than medieval art. Like classical artists, Renaissance painters and sculptors depicted subjects that were not always religious. They tried to show people as lifelike and engaged in everyday activities. They also tried to capture the way things look in the real world. Renaissance art reflects a rebirth of interest in the classical world. What changes brought about this revival of classical culture? That will be the next part. I'm going to stop this video. Go ahead and make sure you finish the chart for the Renaissance art section, and then watch the next video for our next section, which is going to be 27.3.